Hey everybody, Teching here, coming to you from a different room in my house, which indicates that this video will not be strictly about One Piece. No, so today, very simple premise. I wanted to talk about manga and anime series that elicited a emotional reaction from me. Not every single one because we'd be here too long for that, but I was thinking of the other day, like which series have had moments that I have genuinely had like an emotional reaction to, like in a big way, like not just like flipping through and being like, oh, that was a sad moment, or oh, that was a triumphant moment, but moments that like I've genuinely cried or I've genuinely become upset over reading something or watching something, because I feel like that is the ultimate success for any author or a filmmaker or even like a video game designer nowadays. Like if you are reading a book and you have a moment where you are openly weeping over something that is being written in just text on a page, like bravissimo to the person that wrote that. You have elicited a reaction. That is why, going back to One Piece, because obviously I have to at some point, whenever the One Piece treasure is revealed, I honestly just want to laugh. I want to laugh at what it was, because then that means like, okay, this story has kind of transcended the page and I am now laughing over something that is just two-dimensional. Like that's something I want to have a genuine reaction to that. So this is not necessarily like Tekking's top 10 things that I found sad or depressing, or top 10 moments that like really cheered me up in fiction. I'm just gonna like read off a few that are like off the top of my head, just like sitting down for like a couple minutes and really thinking about like, okay, what are the ones that I remember the most, okay? And I'm actually gonna start off with two from my childhood. All right, so this is from the lens of like when I was maybe around 10 years old, started to just get it really into watching anime. And one of them is actually going to be a Western cartoon, and I have to bring it up here because this is the first time in my life that I can recall. Maybe there was something when I was watching, like, I don't know, Bob the Builder or something growing up where I openly weeped over something. Like, oh no, they couldn't fix it. No. But the one moment that I can remember in my life that I genuinely became upset watching, like, I cried after I was done watching it, and even the following day I was still weepy over this, was actually an episode of Futurama. Matt Groening created The Simpsons, and then created Futurama, and I think many people might already know the episode I'm talking about. I believe it's in season 5, and it's the episode called Jurassic Bark. It's about Fry's dog. I'm not going to go through the whole premise of the episode, but essentially the ending shot of the episode is this dog that has, Fry is his owner and he's gone. He got frozen and he's in the future. And so this dog is just waiting outside of the pizza parlor where Fry used to work and just stays there. And very much like the story of Hachiko, always stayed loyal to Fry. And you just see the last shot of this episode of this dog as the years go by, and the dog keeps getting older and older and older, and through the snow and through the rain and through all the different seasons, there's these quick cuts of like summer, fall, winter, spring, like over and over and over again. The dog keeps getting more old and tired and still waiting for Fry to return. Of course, he never does. The passerbys like walk by and like give the dog food. I remember the owner of the pizza parlor comes out and gives him pizza every now and then. And then at the very end, the dog Seymour just kind of lays down and just closes his eyes and dies. And all the while this is going on, a super, super sad song is playing in the background, like Sarah McLachlan style. I don't know who wrote the song. I just know some lyrics are like, I will wait for you for 1,000 summers. And it's only like a 30-second scene. It's not long, but like it ends out the episode and it's the saddest shit ever. Anything involving animals, specifically dogs, I will weep uncontrollably at. I cried at the end of Marley and Me, which, by the way, anybody that ever makes fun of Owen Wilson, I will physically fight you. Owen Wilson is one of the greatest actors of our generation. I don't think anybody really hates Owen Wilson. I hear people make fun of him every now and then because it's like, wow, like he has like a, but no, Owen Wilson legitimately Great actor, fantastic actor, okay? So I cried at the end of Marley and Me. We had to read Old Yeller when I was in 6th grade, and I got weepy at the end of Old Yeller, where they had to go out and shoot him behind the woodshed with a shotgun, like that. Anything, the story of Hachiko, there was an American version of Hachiko, I think starring Richard Gere, that came out a few years ago, probably like well over like 15 years ago at this point. But that got me crying at the end of it, you know, because I've always had dogs my whole life. We had a Cocker Spaniel named Max when I was a little boy, and he died when I was like 5 years old. I don't remember him too well, but then we had a Beagle named Lucky, and that was our dog all the way up until when I was in college, and he passed away. And then we had Duchess, and then Duchess passed away shortly after I moved in here, like 3 weeks after I moved in. Duchess died. And yeah, so anything involving animals, I will cry and weep like a baby over, but that is probably the first one. Like, I remember crying myself to sleep that night over that Futurama episode, right? So that's the first one. That's the first one, all right? Not an anime, not a manga, but that is something I had to mention here. The other moment from my childhood that I remember being, this is not sadness, this is me becoming viscerally upset over a scene in an anime. All right, and this might have even been at the time where I didn't even know this was an anime at this point. Like, when I was a little kid, I didn't really differentiate between, like, Pokemon is an anime, Bugs Bunny is an American cartoon. I just, like, cartoon, you know, like, animation in front of me, that's what I just looked at it as. So I don't even know if I considered, like, I knew what even anime was at this point. But, this was maybe when I was maybe around 12 years old or something like that. Actually, someone can look up the episode. It couldn't have been more than like 2003, 2004. But it was actually a scene from Yu-Gi-Oh! And maybe some of you even know where this is going, okay? A scene in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I became very upset over the decision that happened at the end of a duel. And I was just like, no, this is bullshit. That shouldn't have went down like that. And I was very, very mad over this scene. And it's the end of the duel between Merrick and Joey. Yep, and you know, probably everyone is like, yeah, so the end of the duel with Merrick and Joey, they have a shadow game, and it's so goofy, especially some of these that we're gonna get to in a moment. Like there's one at the end of this, like the most, like, messed up thing that really has impacted me in manga in the last couple, I actually read it last year. It's a scene from Berserk. That shouldn't be... You're like, oh yeah, you read Berserk last year. That'll do it, all right. That'll do it. But, you know, we're talking about Futurama and we're talking about freaking Yu-Gi-Oh! In these scenes. But this is when I was a kid, so I wanted to just bring these up because these are the two that, you know, resonated in my mind the most. So, they're having a shadow duel, and every time a monster gets destroyed, the person feels pain, and then, you know, Joey is not supposed to, like, oh, everybody's shit-talking him, like, Merrick's shit-talking him, Kaiba is like, oh, he's gonna lose, there's no way he's gonna win, Merrick's the main villain of the arc of Battle City. Yugi has to be the one to beat him, right? Okay. And so Joey goes 110% in this duel, and the ending is Merrick turns into Phoenix form Ra and, like, attacks Joey, and Joey doesn't lose his life points. He still has life points left, but Merrick assumes that, like, oh no, I'm just going to hit him so hard that the strain of the shadow duel is going to cause him to just pass out or die, and I'll win that way. And so Merrick finishes his attack. Joey gets burned by, like, sacred Egyptian flames from Ra, the sun god, and as the ash and smoke clear, Joey is still standing, and Merrick is having a damn panic attack because he has nothing on his field. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna die. If he attacks me directly, I'm done, I lose. He has nothing to protect him, and Joey, all he needs to do is just draw a monster and attack. He draws Gearfried the Iron Knight. He's like, Gearfried the Iron Knight, I summon you. And it's like, okay, here we go. This is it. He's gonna win. He's like, and then Joey passes out, and that's the end of the duel. And I am screaming in the living room on a Saturday morning when I watch this. I'm like, no! Like, listen, I didn't start swearing until I was a little older, but if I knew some of the swear words that I know now, my parents, my mom might have had some things to say about me. I might have gotten grounded for a while after that, but I was very upset. And also, like, one of the reasons I'm doing this now is because I started watching a lot of TGS animes videos recently, and he's made a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. Go check him out. I'll put him up here in a card. Absolutely phenomenal YouTuber. And he has a series on his channel where he does just what I've described, like what would have happened if Joey would have beaten Merrick at Battle City. And he has a bunch of other videos like what if scenarios, and he goes through the whole duel. He's a fantastic YouTuber. And watching that video of like what if Joey would have beaten Merrick, he's going going through this hypothetical what if scenario of like, oh well, Joey would get the winged dragon of Ra, and there's a scene where maybe Kaiba would have acknowledged Joey finally, and then the finale of Battle City is Joey versus Yugi, and it's a fun ending to Battle City. It's not like, oh my god, fate of the universe. It's just a fun duel between friends. And I know at the very, very end of Battle City, they have a shot where it's like Yugi and Joey do duel, and Joey gets back his red eyes or whatever, and it's just like, whatever. You don't even see that duel. It's like an afterthought. It's like the last shot of the arc just to kind of close us out. So that doesn't fucking count. But no, like, I'm watching TGS's video, and I'm just like, oh my god, this would have been so cool to see! The only hiccup, the only problem is, and he even goes into this, like, if Joey were to just straight up beat Merrick with the rules of the Shadow Game as they were instituted, Merrick might have just straight up died along with Good Merrick. Good Merrick and Evil Merrick might have died, and then Yugi might have never learned about the secret on Merrick's back, the secret of the Tomb Keepers. But you could, that's the Shadow Game rule. You could have just said, oh yeah, no, Evil Merrick dies, and Good Merrick lives, and he tells Yugi about everything, and then Kaiba and Yugi duel, Yugi beats him, and then Yugi and Joey duel, and they win. Then with their duel, it doesn't even matter who wins. If it was Yugi or Joey, probably would have been Yugi, but it would have been really cool. It would have subverted the idea that, like, oh, only the main character can defeat the main villain. I think even when I was like 12, I was already kind of like sick of that trope of like, how come the only person that can defeat the main villain is the main character? How come we can't have a really cool side character victory? Like, that'd be really cool, right? So even then I was just kind of like wanting this be subverted or changed a little bit to mix up the formula. Dude, it would have been so cool. We'd have just had a nice duel between Yugi and Joey. Joey could have played the Winged Dragon of Ra. Dude, Wayne Grayson, who is the English voice actor for Joey Wheeler, who gave us the brilliant Brooklyn Rage, Joey Wheeler. Somebody hit him up over, like, I think Cameo or something, or maybe just requested it from him, I'm not really sure, but somebody asked him to record himself in Joey's voice reading off the Winged Dragon of Ra's summoning chant. And he did it. It's on YouTube. Go look it up. It's so good. It's so good. I'm like, we were robbed, dude. This would have been so damn sweet to see it. And you're like, oh, how would Joey have learned the chant? Well, if Good Merrick survived, Good Merrick could have just told him the damn chant. It's just like, Joey might have been like, ah, man, I'm gonna have to remember all that? Okay. You know, Joey could have just, there's no reason why you couldn't write it down. Just write it down and read the chant. You know, just like, okay, I'm summoning it. A Winged Dragon of Ra. All right, here we go. You know, he just takes out a piece of, like, notebook paper, a little post-it note, and just reads the chant. Merrick's, like, coaching him through it. It's like, oh, dude, it would have been fantastic. It would have been so good. Oh, dude, in a parallel universe. Okay. Now, with those two scenes being said, now those were two scenes from my childhood. Now let's talk about a couple moments from, you know, as I'm a little older, reading moments, a little bit more dramatic moments from manga. The first one I wanted to bring up is a One Piece one. It's the death of the Going Merry. The death of the Going Merry, the manga version of it, great. The anime, because of the addition of the music, they play Dear Friends by Triplane in the background as the Merry is burning. I get a little weepy every single time. I'm sorry to say I did not cry over the death of the Going Merry like I did over the death of Fry's dog from Futurama. But I did get a little teary-eyed at the death of the Merry. Oda did a thing where he was able to take an object, an inanimate object, and I know some of you would already be offended by that, like, you know, you do not call the Going Merry an object. It just, exactly, but that's my point. That's my point. Oda made us cry over a boat, and he had to personify that in the Klabautermon and everything, like the little spirit that runs around. But it's like the spirit of the Klabautermon doesn't even show up that much. Like, it kind of shows up. You see like this ghostly image at Skypiea, right, of like Usopp sees the ghost, and you know, Klabautermon is like, don't worry, I'll carry everybody a little while longer. But I love when the Merry is burning. It's not like the Klabautermon shows up and walks over to the Straw Hats. No, it's like they hear its voice. The Straw Hats don't see it. They hear the Merry as the Merry is burning, and just like, hey, don't worry, I carried you so far. I had so much fun on this adventure. I wish I could be with all of you at the very end. I love all of you. And Luffy and all the Straw Hats are like, we love you too, Merry. I'm sorry I ripped out your mask that one time and stabbed a whale with it. You know, and it's like, I think that was done so much better. There's a beautiful scene in the episode of Mary, which recaps Ennie's Lobby and stuff like that. At the very end of that OVA, there's a shot where you see a Klabautermann on the Sunny, and this Klabautermann is wearing an orange raincoat as opposed to the Mary wearing the light blue raincoat. And I like to believe, and Frankie even mentions this with the Going Mary, the little Going Mary #2 on the docking system on the Sunny. Like the spirit of the Mary continues on. I like to think it is a continuation of the spirit, or like the child of the Marys, Klabautermann, carrying on the legend and carrying on the emotional and the familial connection that the Straw Hats have with each other and their ship, right? Out of all of the emotional moments in One Piece, like there's a lot, obviously, like the death of Ace is a big one. The death of Corazon is a really big one. Pretty much any flashback. Kuma, dude, we're gonna get Kuma and Bonnie's flashback soon, and Ginny and everybody, and that's that might be a new one on this list. It was already emotional enough in the manga. I can only imagine how much more powerful it's going to be in the anime when you have a sad soundtrack playing in the background, okay? Also, I wanted to bring that up there. I don't want to diminish the idea that there's not a scene in manga that can get you emotional. The one that's gotten me the most emotional from Berserk is in manga form. Like, there's no music or anything. But I was wondering if, like, do you prefer that? Like, if you're reading a manga and it's like there's no music or anything, or you have to, like, kind of envision what the soundtrack would be, or you just want no soundtrack, just the fact of just the scene itself on the page and just with the art and the dialogue or the inner monologues or whatever, is that enough to elicit an emotional reaction? Or just, when you watch it in the anime, did you feel more emotional in the death of the Mary in the anime or less than in the manga? Like, what exactly did you feel about that? I wanted to ask. So that's the scene with the Mary. The next one is a scene from Hunter x Hunter. This is actually, I have a little pop figurine diorama here. Say whatever you want about pop figures, but I love that they're doing these little scenes. So you have Meruem and Komugi there playing Gungi. So, you know how I talked about earlier how I like things like tropes to be subverted? Togashi does this in such a magnificent way in the Chimera Ant arc, where Meruem is the main threat. Like, that's not even a question. He is by far, at that point in the story, like, the strongest Nen user we have seen really do anything. Meruem is the strongest. Still very much could be, like, the strongest Nen user we've seen in Hunter x Hunter. Gon does not fight him. Gon, it's not even considered for Gon to fight him. Gon doesn't even really... I think he sees him once from a distance as Meruem is walking away to go fight with Netero. And Gon doesn't even... And Gon's beef is with Pito. It's not even with the king, really. So that is immediately just shelved. Like, Gon as the main character is not going to fight the main villain of this arc. It's not even going to happen, okay? So, but the biggest thing with Meruem's character, the biggest one, is he starts off as a literal monster. Like, there is no debate, okay? He is born from the Chimera Ant Queen. And the first thing upon being born is he just kills a member of his own kind, of the Chimera Ants. Just immediately just obliterates, just wipes them out. And later on, you have a scene where he kills a family of 3. He murders a child's parents and then cuts this child's head off, or just kills them, and then just devours her brain. Like, he's literally no scrap of humanity, no scrap of empathy or concern. Even, attempts to kill his own royal guard at some point. You get the impression that, like, yeah, Meruem is a straight up... he's an evil monster. Like, nothing else is going on here, right? And he just wants the absolute domination of humanity. He takes over the palace, and the humans in the palace are, like, begging for their lives, and Meruem has the line of just, like, you're foolish, would you spare a chicken or a cow just because it begged you for its life? Like, oh my god, this guy's a monster, right? And then he meets Komugi. And it's at the beginning just like, okay, well, nobody can obviously challenge me in a battle of physical might or nen, so I will instead play games to pass the time. And so Komugi comes in and she introduces the game of Gungi to him, and Meruem reads the rulebook. He's like, okay, let's play Gungi. And it's just over the hundreds of games that they play that Meruem begins to his stance on humanity begins to change, but even his own nature changes. But Not that much. It is very important. There is a line at the very end when Meruem is about to die and he reunites with Komugi. He goes to see Palm to find out where Komugi is located. And he has a conversation with her, who is also a chimera ant at the time, and Palm is weeping because she, as a chimera ant, understands what the goal of her species is, the goal of the chimera ant evolution, what that is. Togashi masterfully plays with the idea of like primal instinct and humanity, and what is humanity in this arc. You can dissect all the scenes with this. You could dissect the scene where Netero blows himself up with a nuke, and he says, you know, oh, Meruem, you do not understand the bottomless malice that humanity holds. You know, like, you know, this battle was always won on our side, not because humanity, you know, sticks together and loves each other and sings Kumbaya. No, it's because we developed nuclear weapons. And we have a bottomless evil in human nature that you need to be aware of, that Meruem did not fully grasp, okay? Because he is only, you know, existed for a couple of weeks at this point, right? So even in the battle with Netero, though, you could see Meruem shifting his viewpoints, where at one point, Meruem was like, yeah, we're just going to take over the entire world and use humans as food and fodder and nothing else. As he's fighting Netero, he's like, well, now I'm gonna make like a preserve for some select humans, I guess. We can do that instead. You know, it's like a shift of his opinion on this all the way up to when he realizes, I just want to spend time with Komugi because I love her and I just want to play a game with her, even though I really don't understand those like feelings at this point. That's all he wanted at the very end. And the way that Meruem expresses this is not like an overly exaggerated emotional breakdown. It's not like Togashi draws Meruem crying or something like, oh no, these human emotions, I'm a monster, this is what I am. Like, no, he's still very calm and collected, and he has a line to Palm where he says, I believe it was only a subtle change. Now, holy shit, like I said, I could make a whole video dissecting that one line. In fact, I very well might. I might just make a video called It Was a Subtle Change or something, right? That line speaks to the idea of humanity. It speaks to the idea of what he was and now what he is. And it's just like, yeah, the idea of being a monster or being a human, it's just a subtle shift, you know, like Netero brings it up, you know, like our humans are kind of monsters as well, with the kind of like devastating weapons we develop and things like that. And the absolute, you know, anguish and pain we can bring about on our own kind, you know. So these are themes that are harkened back throughout the entire arc. So it's Palm's reaction to this and realizing that like the chimera ants are finished essentially because Meruem is now, he has found humanity and he's just going to go spend time with Komugi and die. He realizes he's going to die. He realizes the nuclear, you know, poisoning, the nuclear radiation he absorbed from the rose bomb is going to kill him. And he even realizes that Komugi's going to die too. And Komugi is okay with that as well, because Komugi also fell in love with Meruem at the end of this. I mean, we've seen the whole idea of like, you know, monster and girl like falling for each other and discovering humanity and things like that, but never in a way that I've seen it done like in Hunter x Hunter. There's been other works of fiction where that's been done, but not quite in this same way, and the way that it was done here, and then they just both die in each other's arms as that episode ends with, like, once again, the ending credits, and then you just see darkness. You just see, like, a black screen and just like, oh, I'm closing my eyes now. It's okay, I'm here. And then they die embraced, and that's beautiful. So, all those scenes... The last one that I have to say to you is the one I just read last year. I was reading all of Berserk. I have all of the hardcover editions of Berserk over here. It's a scene, and the scene might not... There's no way I can properly give you context for this in just like a quick little abridged like few minutes. The only way to truly feel the same emotion or even a close to the same emotion I feel when I read it the first time is you have to read all of Berserk. Okay, I did it in about a month and a half, So, it is a long serialized manga, but it was only like a monthly released one, so it's not as many chapters as something like Kingdom is. Like, for example, I'm reading Kingdom now, and it's taking me several months to get through Kingdom. So, it's a scene involving Casca. Already, it's like there's a lot of messed up scenes that involve Casca that would elicit a very strong emotional reaction. Yeah, there are. So Casca is a soldier in the Band of the Hawk, or the Band of the Falcon, depending on which translation you're reading. The leader of the Band of the Falcon is Griffith. Griffith saved Casca when she was a child, and that's how she became a member of the group. At the beginning, during the Golden Age arc, when we first meet her, she's very strong, both physically and mentally. She's respected by everybody in the Band of the Falcon. She becomes a little jealous when Guts joins. She looks up to Griffith as not only her savior, but also her role model, and also develops romantic feelings for Griffith, okay? And that's very, very important. So she wants to, express her love to Griffith and tell him how she feels, but it's very clear that Griffith is not, like, it's clear that, like, Griffith, with his ambition, that, like, the two of them, like, she just feels like this is never going to happen. Like, I cannot hope to be with Griffith, so she kind of ends up going more along with Guts instead, and they have a scene together. This culminates in Griffith being captured and tortured for about a year, and then Casca takes over the Band of the Falcon, and she needs to, get everybody together to rescue Griffith, their leader, and they eventually do, but Griffith's body is extraordinarily emaciated and just disfigured over this year of just the worst torture imaginable, and then this is when shit really hits the fan. So, the eclipse happens, and the God Hand appear, and Griffith becomes the fifth member. He becomes a demon known as Femto. And all of these demons are summoned, and they just completely annihilate all the members of the Band of the Falcon, save for a few. Guts has his arm chomped down by a demon, so he can't move. He has his eye damaged and everything. Everybody just dies in this sea of bloodbath as Casca is witnessing everything. Guts and Casca are both branded with the brand of sacrifice while this happens. And Femto, Griffith, descends as this demon and violently sexually assaults Casca in front of Guts. And I don't know how to properly, I just can't do it. I cannot properly articulate this scene. That happens, all right? And as you can imagine, with this being the person that she respected the most and her savior, like literally the knight in shining armor that saved her from slavery, now violating her in this way, this causes a tremendous psychological break in Casca, where she is essentially regresses to the state of a child. She becomes mute. Other people kind of, are looking after her. They call her Elaine. So she has like a split personality kind of formed during this event. With the death of her friend, Guts is disfigured, and this eclipse is looming over her, and there's the demons here and all this shit. So she just has a complete psychological break, and she stays like that for the majority of the manga. This scene with the eclipse was originally published in 1996, and she does not reclaim her sense of self until a chapter that comes out in 2017. So I read all of Berserk in about a month, but I cannot imagine reading this on a monthly basis from the 90s all the way up into the 2010s. This would have been over 20 years of this building and building and building as Guts, the endless struggler, is constantly looking for a way to cure Casca, to get her sense of self back, to restore her psyche. And all of the stress and trials and tribulations that Guts has to go through. And we finally reach the point of the story where Casca is looking like she's going to be healed. And I can tell you just from reading it just from volume to volume over the course of a month, it was enough to be like, oh my god, okay, this is finally the moment. This is happening. So they get to the land of the elves, Elfheim. They meet the queen mother of the elves, and she mentions that she has a spell that will be able to restore Casca. And it's like, okay, Farney and Shierke have to essentially go into Casca's psyche, into her consciousness, her unconscious mind, and find the issue, the cause of this trauma, in order for her to be healed, in order to return to herself. Okay. And I'm sure we've all seen this particular trope in other works of media, the idea of like going into somebody's conscious or unconscious mind, like, because it gives the author or the artist a tremendous opportunity to, like, how do you personify, how do you articulate or give physical form to the human mind? Like, what does the inside of a person's psyche look like? And there's a bunch of different interpretations of this. Like, I like the way it was interpreted in the Venture Brothers, or even the way it was interpreted in that episode of Harley Quinn in season 1. They go into Harley's mind, and like, because there's a bunch of different ways. Like, sometimes it's interpreted like an office building, and like behind every door is like a different fragment of that person's personality or something. There's a bunch of different ways this has been done. This one is the most emotional, definitely, but it's also one I've never really seen before, and it's just absolutely depressing. But it also, I feel, takes somebody that has extreme trauma, like PTSD, and like, how do you visualize that as that person's mind? So Shierke and Farney go into Casca's mind. It is a blighted wasteland as far as the eye can see. Just death and detritus just everywhere. The eclipse sky is looming over, just a black sky with the eclipse. The thing that Casca just looked up and saw this eclipse as all of these horrible, horrible things are happening to her. That's the backdrop for this. All right. And in this endless hellscape, and in the distance there are these a spiky forest and these mountains rising up, which is like the source of her trauma. All right. And in this wasteland there is a dog. There is this battered, injured, snarling like Doberman with 3 legs. And this is the visual representation of Guts, because every time Elaine sees Guts, she's always like terrified of him, okay? Like some kind of snarling beast. And so this is how she sees Guts in her own psyche. But also Guts is, the dog is carrying a coffin, like carrying or pulling this coffin by a bunch of chains. The dog is all scarred up and covered in arrow wounds and everything, and just bleeding. And then there's this coffin. And Farney and Shierke, they kind of set it up before the coffin is opened. They talk about what is inside is how Casca sees herself. That whatever is inside of this coffin is the personification of Casca's own self. Like, when Casca looks at herself in the mirror, this is what she sees. So they set that up for that, and they'd be like, okay, just be prepared for whatever we're going to see. Like, and I'm reading this, and I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck is gonna be in that coffin? How this is gonna be like all the shit that happened up until now in Berserk. I'm preparing myself for this to being the most like gory Cronenberg thing. Like, I thought it was going to be, because there's another aspect of Berserk that's really emotional, which is the fact that Casca was pregnant when Femto assaulted her, and the evil of Femto corrupts the fetus. And I was thinking the coffin, like when they moved the coffin, whatever was in there was going to resemble the demon baby. Like, I thought it was going to be something like that, like some weird Cronenberg kind of thing. And it's like a full page spread of what the inside of the coffin, like they move the lid off the coffin and then you turn the page and it's just a full page spread of like them looking down into what they see. And it's a doll. It's a ceramic doll, a broken, shattered ceramic doll of Casca. It's a doll that's missing like most of its body, just like the upper chest and then the face. And the face is like smashed in and like the eyeball is like falling out. My light turned off. And the eyeball like falls out and it's just a smashed, destroyed porcelain doll of Casca. When I turned the page and saw that, I put the book down and I just stared off in silence for like 5 or 10 minutes, like somewhere around. It was a long time. And I want you to understand, I'm not being like overly dramatic with that. I want you to just sit down and stare at a blank wall for 10 minutes. That's what I did. That's what I did after just thinking about all of the events that happened up until now, all of the trials and tribulations that Casca has been through. And that is how she sees herself. I can't properly convey to you. I don't even know how the fuck I felt about that. Like, I don't even know if I could really put it even into words, really. Like, depressed, sad, yes, but like more than that, I don't know. Like, that was literally why I had to just stare off in the distance for 10 minutes to even process what the emotion was I was even feeling. You know, like, it's just like, I don't even know what to make of this. Miura, if as I said at the beginning of this, if the goal of an author is to elicit an emotional reaction, dude, I think I discovered a new emotion I don't even know how to put into words reading this. But that's how I felt. That's some heavy shit. That was some heavy shit for real. And probably is, like, that's going to be hard to top that. I don't know if that ever will. You know, like, there might be other manga that might give me a sense of like joy or a sense of like anger, like I had when Merrick beat Joey. But like, I don't know if I'll ever encounter a story that'll do that exact same reaction that I had when I read that scene in Berserk. That one might be exclusive to Berserk. So, yeah. On that note, I'm going to end this here. I would like you to share with me your stories, like moments in manga that you felt like, you know, impacted by. Was there a scene like that in Berserk for you where you don't even really know how to like describe it? Because like, I feel like those probably don't come around very often. So yeah, that's that though. I'll be back with normal One Piece content in the next video. Later, everybody.